See you soon. Excuse me. What's wrong? Hi everybody, welcome to StashBlaster Quilts. My name is Maria. I'm here to help you make more quilts in less time with less stress. Welcome to Chaos Central, which is another name for us today. I'm not sure exactly why I am... Oh, here we go. There we go. That's better. It has been a week. It has been a heck of a week, and particularly today. So, I'm running a little behind here, so let me move this down. I didn't get a chance to do this before I had to set it onto the intro. There we go. Okay, so, like I said, today has been chaotic, and I'll tell you all about it, but welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time here, I am a professional organizer by trade, so I usually start with a tip, then I update you on the quilts that I'm working on, some of which are things people are doing with me, and then I blather. That's really it. That's what I do. If you're enjoying this, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, all of that kind of stuff, comment. All of those things do help the channel, just so you know. I have a few enough number of subscribers that it's not a huge difference, but every little bit helps. Anyway, so the tip for this week is do an inventory. Now, I'm not talking about counting how many binder clips you have or exactly what your yardage and fabric is. I'm not talking about an inventory like you would do if you owned a quilt shop. But it is a good idea once a year or so to just open all your drawers. Look at your stuff. What have you forgotten you own? I can't tell you how many times people go to events where there's stuff for sale, like a flea market, a vendor's fair, a quilt show, something like that. And they buy the thing they already own. So now they have two of them. You can always give one to a friend, but that's not the idea, right? We want to get new things that are different, that we can try something we haven't tried before. So every year or so, take a look at what you have. What's worn out and needs replacing? What is bent, broken, and either needs repair or it needs to go away? What are you not using? And don't remember the last time you did use it, okay? Those kinds of things make your home more reflective of who you are and what you're doing than having a bunch of old junk lying around taking up space that the things that make you happy now could be giving you. So that's our tip for today. And I don't care if we're talking about the kitchen, the sewing room, the garage, all right? But take a look about once a year at what you have so you can appreciate it, but also use it. Okay? Updates on quilts. I re-injured my thumb. So, although I was starting to do some handwork, it is over. For at least another few months, probably. So, the Grandmother's Flower Garden quilt is sitting there. It's waiting for me. As soon as I'm ready to get back to it, I will. I will let you know. I will show you the progress on it. I am able to work on my son's wedding quilt, and that's what I'm going to be working on while we're talking today. I hope that we figured out the camera problem that made everything white out last time. Of course, my son showed up to figure out what the problem was, and it was working perfectly. It's like taking your car to the mechanic. You know, so I did the best that I could. So we've got that. And I have made progress on some stuff. So I will show you what I'm doing. Because I've been cutting out all these houses, and I do have the bodies and roofs, not all the roofs, sorry. I have all of the house bodies cut through June 30th. They're not sewn, but they're cut. So that's stage one. I did manage to sew a few, but because I was going to the scrap boxes that I had leftover scraps that I had already ironed, so I used that time to process them down so they can go on to the drawers that are behind where you're sitting. So I had a whole bunch of strips that I cut of various sizes. Okay, so that's quite a few. And I had a whole bunch of squares that I cut as well. So these all need to get filed away in the drawers. But it took quite a bit of time to do all of this. So I am counting it as a significant win. I still have a ton. Um, I had stacks sitting and waiting for me for the longest time, and I am going to get them all cut down and put away. I have had fabric waiting to be processed for the longest time. I'm going to get into it, get it all washed, dried, the quarter yards and larger folded and put on the wall behind me, and then the rest put into the appropriate colored scrap boxes, in the other room. I'm also trying to do a bunch of stuff around the house. I am working a lot. I am speaking a lot. So all of this is going to take a bunch of time. So there's going to be a lot of little mini updates along the way. But, so I got all of those cut. I also finished making the houses that I started with you last time. There's quite a few here. I didn't count them. 5, 9, 14. So I got 14 house bodies done. Oops, make it my setup. Okay, there you go. And there's a nice variety of patterns and styles. These ones are pretty much all pinks. I do, because I was sewing with my lightest shade of pink, but I'm going to move on to the reds, etc. So not all the houses are pink, I promise. But it was nice to do a whole bunch of them at once and not have to change my threads as often. So I did those, and then I also did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 house roofs. And like I said, I'm doing roofs today because I am so exhausted from my day-to-day. I don't want to do anything I have to really think about, which is why I can do the roofs and the bodies separately and then put them together when I have laid out where I want the different houses and the different roofs, and then just quickly sew them together, and then poof, it'll be done. So I'm really happy about that. So my day-to-day, I was working in a house that they were replacing the HVAC system and the hot water tank, which meant I was working in a house that didn't have any air conditioning and has not had any for a week. So in the first half hour I was in there, I was soaked, and I stayed that way from 7:30 in the morning till about 5:15 this evening, which gave me just enough time to get home, eat the hot soup that Scott made for dinner, grab a shower, and get here. I was betting with myself whether I was going to be able to get on early like I usually do, or if I was going to just flip everything on right at 8 o'clock because of how things, 7 o'clock, excuse me, because of how things were going. As it is, I did manage to get a shower, so that's why your screens are not curling. But I am still dripping for your amusement, so there you go. It's been an interesting day. When I left, the air conditioning had been on for about a half an hour, and you could start to feel it. It was all the way down to 85 on the first floor, and we spent all day working on the second floor, which is usually about 10 degrees warmer. So yeah, we were really, really hot. The high today was 89, which means the effective temperature upstairs was 99, and then you added all the humidity, it was well over 100. So we were roasting. But we got an awful lot done, so I felt really good about that. But yeah, I'm kind of wiped right now, and that's okay. But if I don't speak English at some point, if I think I'm speaking English, but it comes out in gobbledygook or high gobbledygook, please forgive and understand. So just to kind of give you the way how busy we were. I lost half the nail polish on the end of my nail in the first half hour and the other half in the second half hour, and it just kept going like that all day. I was banging into stuff. I dropped fans off of railings. It was tough. We actually had fans set up upstairs. I have a new portable generator, and this is the first time we've had a chance to try it out. And it weighs 23 pounds. It's got a nice little handle on it. You can pick it up and carry it anywhere. You can recharge it from an outlet or through solar panels. We have not tried that part yet. They're still packed. But it helped so much because the last time we were there, last time we were there, we hadn't found a single outlet in the house yet. And so when we were there today, we found outlets in 2 out of the 3 rooms, but not in the room that I was in until the very end. So there was no place to plug them in, so having the generator made a huge difference. So I'm very, very happy with that. I am pleased with how much we accomplished today, and when we go back on Tuesday, it should be about 67 in there. I thought about setting it to 70 to 72 like I would normally, but given how hard we're working and the air conditioning not working upstairs because of the clutter is blocking a lot of the vents and things, so it's still going to be warmer up there. So I said, just fine, leave it on 67 where the techie had it. So it should be nice and brisk in there, which will be good. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, that's pretty much all that's going on. We meet the first and the third Wednesday of the month, so it'll be 3 weeks before I'm back. But I just want to double check something here. I'm double checking that I've got some stuff coming up, and I want to make sure that it's not interfering with the live stream. Alright, there may be one in August that I may not be home in time for, because we're flying that day. And I know that there's a couple in September that I may be doing remotely. But as a general rule, if you are expecting me, I will be here. If I'm not, and you check back, there's also tech issues. I have a hate-hate relationship with tech, but if you check back and I'm not here, please forgive. I will get on as soon as I can, which may be days later, or it may be the next time we're scheduled to meet. But as a general rule, you can expect to find me here the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 o'clock. So even if I hadn't had a chance to grab my shower yet, I was going to be here for you. Let me grab a drink. So today was one of those days I could not drink enough. I think I drank about a gallon of water, Gatorade, and Diet Coke, and I still didn't need the restroom at 5:30 or 6 o'clock when I got home. So it kind of tells you how much I was sweating. But I'm very glad to have gotten as much done as we did. So that's about it. Alright, I am going to attempt to change cameras again. So you can watch as I sew. You're going to get to see that one weird fingernail a lot, if this works. But last time it didn't, so I just want to see if I can get program preview. Can I see it? Oh yes, and we're not all weird again. Alright. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to switch. There we go. Okay, I made it work. Alright, so I do have a few roofs currently under the edge here. And so I'm just going to sew one side of the roof on until I get through a whole bunch of them, and then also the other side of the roof on. I know some of you just use this as sewing time. Some have said that you enjoy just sewing along with me, whether you're watching it live or not. I know there's a few of you who watch it live, but not on a consistent basis. I can't always tell. So, for example, right now, we have one person on, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is, and they tend to lurk. So, most of you do watch it, not when it's live. So, unfortunately, that means that I cannot be chatting with you specifically, but that's okay. As long as you're getting something out of it. And there are 60 of you, so some of you are. And that's really all that matters. Actually, my husband likes it because it forces me to sit down and sew, which keeps me from being as angry and frustrated and all of that, as I have been in the past when I haven't been sewing. So this has been a very good thing for me. So he's happy just about that. I do have my son coming over with his bride on a regular basis. We play games. And then I dragoon him into coming up and looking at my computer when it's misbehaving. But it does mean, because he does not want to know what I'm doing for the wedding quilt, so he does not watch the live stream. I know that, because I warned him. I said that I will be talking about it here. So he's like, okay, so that means do not watch the live stream. I don't think he ever did anyway, to be honest with you. But it made it sound like a virtue then that he wasn't watching it, versus a I don't care about my mom. So I think that worked out. So by the way, when I have a stack like this, let me get over here where you can see it better. Rather than trying to peel one off at a time, I'll take a smaller piece here so it's a little bit easier to see. I will simply fold, okay, not a hard fold, but a light fold, pinch, and then expand. And what winds up happening is it pulls your layers apart. Okay, can you see that? There you go. And so it makes it easier to do. And you can also just kind of drag your thumb or your finger across. But it's nicer because it'll be easier to go ahead and grab just one at a time. I have been known to sew multiples of things together unknowingly, and then you have to pick it apart, and it's not nearly as nice. And then they all have needle holes in them, and I did that with leather once, and of course once you punch a hole in leather, it's over. You cannot fix those holes. Alright, there's things that you can do, but they're always going to be there. Now I do have this. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. There we go. This was actually, here, I'll switch it back. So this was actually a fork for a cocktail set. So like if you were entertaining with like a cheese plate or something like that, these would sit in a little decorative glass so that people could go ahead and do that. And then this is before you threw everything out. Then these would get washed and recycled and redone. I really like the fact that it has, let me put this over my face so you can see it, it has the 2 points on this end, so I can guide up both sides of my needle, and it's of course has one on this end, here we go, so I can use that more like a stylus if I want or need to. I do have the habit when I'm sewing on my own, I'm trying not to do this kind of thing here, is I will put it in my mouth and it's like right here, and I just grab and go, and then I grab and go, and I grab and go. But that's a little gross for in front of other people, so I'm trying not to do that here today. But it's been known to happen. Anyway, so I do have some yellow roofs cut out. I hope I never need these, so I am not going to sew these until I know that I need them. Yellow means a low temperature in the 90s. It's bad enough when it's been 60s and 70s, but I don't want any lows in the 90s. We have not actually crested 100 yet. It has felt like it. It has been so humid. I was saying to some people, I'm going to go back to sewing, the other day, that when I moved here to Virginia, I had not banked on moving to the Amazonian rainforest, which is what it feels like right now, because it's pouring every day, thunderstorms every day. In fact, while I was waiting for this to start, these are the ones I'll be sewing, there was thunder and lightning going on outside. So this was not what I had intended, and it has not been like this before. It's nice to not have a drought situation, but it's just been so humid, and the thunderstorms haven't even cleared out the humidity. So you have the thunderstorm, and you would think it would be, you know, clearer air and everything, and it's really not. So Washington, D.C. was built on a swamp, and it certainly feels like it's, one everywhere I go these days. I am looking forward to the weather moderating a little. I like it when it's nice and warm outside. But for me, that's like low to mid 70s is just about right. I don't mind if it gets down into the 60s and I would need to wear a light jacket or something like that. That's fine. But, whoo-wee, what we've been doing lately, it's just miserable. And you can't really, go around in public with ice packs taped to your bare skin all over the place. Because that's what I really wanted to do today. There's cooling cloths and all that, but a lot of the time I just feel wet because you soak them in cool or cold water, and it's supposed to make you feel cooler and colder. Yeah, I feel cold and wet. And then when I go into air conditioning, I'm freezing and wet. So there's some pluses and minuses there. One of the gals on my team was wearing a ring, a U-shaped ring around her neck, and then when she got super hot, she'd put it on her head like a headband. I'm thinking that might be the way to go, because it's frozen. So it's not just wet. It does have some condensation, so she does get a little bit wet, but that really frozen core just stays cold all day, and so she's not just feeling wet. Because I'll tell you, with how humid it's been outside already, I already feel wet enough. Okay, so that was it for that stack, so I'm going to go ahead and spread out the next stack of green here. Alright. I am going to try to keep up on cutting out houses on a monthly basis so that I don't get hugely behind. So these are the ones that I did before, and so I'll be adding these ones to it. I figure if I do a couple of weeks worth of houses and roofs every couple of weeks, then next year won't be so bad. I do know I'm going to miss some dates. I'm going to be traveling, etc. So, if I can get ahead, that's even better. But if not, at least I won't be as far behind. That's the thing is I'm trying not to fall too far behind. Now, I did tell my son that this was a temperature quilt. They agreed that that was a great idea. So I told him I can't even finish collecting the data until February, because that's when their wedding was, and this is for their first year of marriage. So I can't even, without the data, I can't build the house. I can't build the quilt. So I said it's probably going to be a year after that. You'll probably get it on your second anniversary. And he's like, oh, that's fine. And of course, they are quite sure that they're going to make it to their second, so I have plenty of time. I'm just grabbing a drink here. So I've been listening to an interesting series of books lately. I had heard about them, but I had not actually read it myself, called The Mouse Who Roared, or That Roared, I don't remember which. And it's a alternate history kind of a thing. And it's been really kind of interesting to read, because It's basically a bunch of people in the 50s and 60s, basically. There's an independent country that's only 2 by 5 miles wide in the Alps, basically. And purely by accident, they wind up doing a lot of amazing things. And so, reading about how it happened, and then what the reaction was from the U.S. and the USSR, because that's what it was at the time, and everything else, is kind of fun. And so I've been listening. The first one was The Mouse That Roared. The second one was The Mouse in the Moon. The third one is The Mouse in Wall Street. That's the one I'm listening to right now, and I don't know what the next two are. But I got it for free on Amazon, not Amazon, Audible. When you have a subscription, there's a library of free books and or audiobooks, so that's where I got it. And I'm really glad I did. I had purchased a book I was going to listen to, and then found out, because I wasn't paying attention, that it was part of a trilogy. So I've pre-ordered. I got the first and second books, and I've pre-ordered the third, but I'm not going to listen to it until the third one is there, because I don't want to be hanging forever. I tend to be a little impatient with trilogies that way. So this was a great thing to just be able to stop and pick up some extra books for free. I have tried to rent from the library, but sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, even for audiobooks. So I just say fine. There's a book that my son and his daughter have read that they want to have like a little book group discussion about. And trying to get it from the library was going to be months. And I said no. So Scott got a copy of it, and so he's reading it to me, but I haven't spent any time with him lately where he could do that. So I believe we have finished chapter 1, and everybody else is done. So we're going to have to make some concerted book reading time. Normally what happens is when we're going somewhere, he reads books while I drive, because I can't read in the car very comfortably. I also can't sew in the car or do anything else, which is rather distressing. But we have read a huge number of books this way. Some one or the other of us had read before, and some were brand new to both of us, and this is a new one to both of us, so that's kind of cool. I would love it if you would drop me a note and tell me what you're listening to in terms of audiobooks or what you're reading. I'm always looking for good new things to read. Mostly, though, I'm listening, to be honest with you. I don't have a whole lot of time to just sit and pull out a book. It's usually in my car on the way places, especially to clients and things. So, particularly audiobooks, if you don't have any of those that you've been listening to lately. Alright, I'm making some good progress here. I want to do all the blues, so I've got this one and 6 more. And then after that, I will snip all but one and do the other sides. And then I'll catch that one back up afterwards. I'm planning on just doing the sewing here. I will take them downstairs with me at the end of the night and get them pressed. I do need to add them on my tally card to the completed column and erase them from the cutout column, so I know where I stand. But it'll be really good to have made a bunch of progress today. But I know that I would have been doing a lot of picking out if I had been doing the more complex parts of this. I did have somebody ask me why I'm not paper piecing these. Number one, I have to do 364 of them, and that's a lot of paper, honestly. There's nothing wrong with paper piecing. I do enjoy paper piecing, but I don't tend to do it when I'm doing something so big. Some of my houses are a little wonky because I have done them on different sewing machines, which is part of it. Plus, I'm not paying any attention to fiber. So some of these are thicker than others. Some of these have a blend versus being 100% cotton. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, let's do it this way. And so they sew a little bit differently. And I'm perfectly fine with that. It's going to make my town look a little wonky, a little more whimsical. And that's fine with me. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, of course, if you decided you wanted to do something like this and paper piece it, I think that that would be fine. These are so small, it's hard to get them under the needle cleanly. So it would make perfect sense to paper piece, because you also have that lead-in of paper, which is nice, to help make sure that everything stays nice and straight. But, yeah, I'm fine. If this is your first time here, I am more about production than I am about perfection. I want to help people make what they want to make, how they want to make it, and not worry about the quilting police coming and yelling at them, or worrying that they were off this teeniest bit here, and so they have to take it apart and redo the whole thing. Do I make mistakes? Of course I do. Do I make mistakes I have to pick out? Of course I do. The other day when I was building one of these houses, I put right side to wrong side and sewed it so it was wrong and it could not stay that way. But the minor stuff, if it's my roof point isn't perfect, I don't care. It's good enough. And like I said, the kids are a lot of fun and they're kind of wonky, so they won't care if the houses aren't perfect. In fact, they'll probably like them better because of that. If all the houses were exactly the same, I think they'd find them boring. That's one reason why I'm doing the colors by color family, not specific materials. So instead of just having the 70s in one shade of pink or red and having multiple houses next to each other that all look the same, I can do any shade of red or pink for a high temperature in the 70s. And that's going to lead a lot more variety. And I'm putting wild doors on some of these houses. So, for example, this daisy pattern might be a door to another house. So there are white doors. There's a specific reason for white doors. There's a bunch of brown doors. But there's also a bunch of orange and purple and green and all kinds of other colors. And polka dots and stripes and patterns and all kinds of things. Just for the sheer joy of having some fun colored doors. So it does really fit my my plan to do it that way. Okay, so let me switch. So here's all but one. So now all I have to do is run it through the machine. I do have, oh, I love this thing. You don't need to buy one of these. I won this at a drawing. Yeah, at my guild they do a door prize drawing. I won this there. This is the quilting gizmo. It's basically a razor blade in a holder. Okay, and you can do that yourself. You can take a seam ripper and put it in a holder. Like, let me see if I can show you here. Okay, so I have one of these, right? And it's got a, I don't know if I can get, hold on, let me see if I can get it close enough on the other camera. I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you go. So it has these these openings here, and you can put all kinds of stuff in here. You could take your seam ripper and just poke it in like this and use that to cut your threads. I like this little gizmo, so I own it because I want it, and so I'm going to use it to separate my roofs. There's no reason I couldn't sew it on the chain like this, but it starts to kind of jam up a little bit, and so rather than having to think about it, because again, rough day, I am going to go ahead and cut them apart. All right, let me move these over, and you can probably hear the thunder behind me, so I apologize for that. So, all right, let me switch back to camera 3. No, you can't quite see it, and that's too tall. Well, here we go. Boop. Okay, so all I need to do is just touch the intersection to this. It's just a lot quicker than scissors, because with scissors you have to pick it up, move it where you want it, snip, and then move, and then find the spot and snip. And this you just go pop, pop, pop. So this is the best thing. It's a silly thing. Like I said, you don't need to buy one. But I do like having it. Just like I don't really need the holder I showed you, but it does work really nicely. So I use it. In fact, I bought more. You can use them for makeup brushes, you can use them for all kinds of stuff, but I have several of them sitting around so that I have things like scissors, pens, mechanical pencils, seam rippers, what else do I keep in there? I have a stylus, I have a marker, all that kind of stuff. Just really handy and easy to get to. Alright, and then on this first one, I'm going to go ahead and trim these long threads just to keep things a little neater. I do prefer to chain my piecing together, so this is going to be my leader basically. I'm going to sew a couple of these and then cut just that one off and sew it in. And then when I get to the end, they'll all be ready to go. Could I leave one under the foot? Sure, I could. Will I do that? I don't know. I might or I might not. It's just kind of nice to do that, but I also don't mind holding the thread down and off to the side and doing it that way. I would normally just use a half square triangle that I have in my leader and ender box, but because the thread is green, it's not going to work for most of those. Most of those have either a white or dark triangle, and so the green would not work for most, because it's a fairly bright green. Okay, so if you're doing this, let's move it over here. It is important that the two angles meet each other at the top together. Otherwise your roof won't look like a roof. It'll look like a parallelogram. Okay? So that's the only care I have to take when sewing this, because the line's already drawn on. All I have to do is follow the line, and I'm going to get my 45-degree angle that I want for my roof. More or less. So anyway, I always do start stitching on the side that has the long side, and I go towards the point. If you start here, you're much more likely to have it bunch up underneath your needle, which is not going to give you the results that you want. So I'm going to put this on. Now when I sewed the first time, the triangle was on the right, now the triangle's on the left. But it's easy enough to do. But I'm going to start here and sew that way. And what's nice is that the presser foot is holding the fabric on both sides, the fabric underneath. So I get a lot less shifting as well by doing it this way. Now, I did have somebody ask me once about my scrap boxes, because I talk about how I process the pieces all the way down, and that's true. But when I don't have time to do that, I separate my scraps into under 5 inches and over 5 inches by color. And so if I'm doing a project like this, I know that what I need, I'll get back up here, for the house is a 9-inch strip by 1-inch strip. So I don't need a full width of fabric, I just need enough pieces to equate to 9 inches. The roof is 2.5 by 1. So I can use all my little scraps to pull out the color that I need, because I know I need, let's say, 15 blue roofs, right? I could pull out just 15 pieces of fabric that are random, that don't match what I've already done. I'm trying not to repeat too much. I am putting some roofs on that match houses somewhere else, not as an I Spy exactly, but kind of as a fun throwback to the other houses. But I can use those smaller pieces, and then I process them down the rest of the way when I'm done cutting out what I need for the houses. So it's just because I was so far behind that I waited and I did a big cut up all at once. But you could do it each time. Doesn't matter either way. And that is what I did for the most part. But I wasn't always sure if I wanted to maybe get a door out of it as well, and so I kind of left it until I knew what I wanted to do with it. But you certainly could. You could just process the whole thing, making sure you had the pieces you needed for the houses, and then going from there and process it all down at the same time. There's no reason you couldn't. I was just feeling a little more under the gun to get them cut out. Partially, I was doing a whole lot prior to quilt camp, and I told you guys about quilt camp and the summer camp. But then after that, I wanted to get the rest of them cut out through the end of June, so that I knew the first half of the year, which is not exactly true because I got married halfway through February. But for me, the calendar year, I knew the first half was done, and so it felt good to get ahead that way. So that's why I did that. But certainly didn't need to. I just am trying to, like I said, not find myself at the end. You know, in February when the anniversary comes around, I collect that last piece of data, and then I have 366 houses to build. And I am planning on doing some bigger ones in the middle, one for the wedding day and then one for the first anniversary. And then instead of putting the actual date on the mailbox area, or the house number area like I'm doing with the rest of them, they're going to be labeled 2025 and 2026. So it is going to be a little bit different that way. And those houses, I think, are going to be not only larger, but I'm going to be doing a lot more with them. I need to make sure how big I can go and still do everything I want to do on this top, which is not going to be easy. So that's a big problem. But then I'm also looking at it as, since those are the two, I'm going to put them basically in the middle. And if I have room for them to be fancier, I might, you know, kind of merge them together into one big castle. If possible. It depends on the temperatures. But for their wedding, the high and the high was under 30 degrees. So that meant the low was as well. So it was gray and black is for under 30 degrees. If it's the same way this February, then I can do one big castle for both and do like a turret or a flag or something fun, just to give it some extra zhuzhing. All right, if we want to use that word. And so that ought to be a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to switch back so you can watch the sewing. Several of you have actually told me that you just like watching the needle go. Whether you're sewing along or it's just background or whatever, you like to watch it happen. So here you go. you are welcome to email me at the address you saw hanging up behind my head, and you'll see again, mail@StashBlasterQuilts.com. If you have a question, whether it's about quilting or organizing in general, I'm happy to answer. Sometimes I answer them here, sometimes I answer them elsewhere. So for example, if your question is too specific to be of general interest, I'll email you back. But for the most part, if it's quilting related, I'm going to answer right here so that other people who have the same question get the answer. Alright, before this gets too far, I'm going to go ahead and clip off that daisy, just so I don't forget to do that. Alright, which means that all of the roofs here have all of their pieces, and they're done. They just need to be pressed and trimmed. So whether I finish this tonight or not, we'll be in a good place. I have a sneaking suspicion that when I'm done here with you guys, I'm going to go downstairs and have some more dinner. I had a sandwich, but that was at noon. And then I had the bowl of soup and a couple of pieces of bread. Just real quick as soon as I got home. And I'm actually feeling a little peckish, so I think I may get a snack. Or some more soup. I don't know. We'll see. My husband asked me, he goes, so do you want anything else? And I said, probably, which is of course not a helpful answer. And I said, but I don't have time for anything right now because I needed to come on up and shower. So I do try to make sure that I shower before I do this, which is kind of silly because you really can't smell any icky from me, but I feel less icky, and so I think that that makes a difference. So I always do try to shower. Sometimes you get makeup, sometimes you don't. That's life. Some days you get fancier clothes. Today you got just a knit dress that I enjoy. I keep meaning to alter it. It does not have any pockets, and it's baggy. I bought it too large, which is fine. I have no problem with having baggy clothes. Especially, I mostly wear this knocking around the house. But I've been meaning to take it in at the top of the arm's eye so it fits a little better, but maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see what happens. I'm quite happy to leave it the way it is too. I am doing something that I don't normally do. I have a spool of thread in the top of my machine. I often just use bobbins on both top and bottom because it helps me know, especially when I'm doing a bunch of sewing, it lets me know when I'm about to run out of bobbin thread because my machine doesn't tell me. But it does have this clear plate right here, so I am keeping an eye on it. I'm not usually that obsessive, but I often have bigger pieces that cover this when I'm sewing. And so when that's the case, for example, if I'm doing the StashBlaster Quilts, I'm going to have 15 yards of black fabric on there. I won't know that it ran out until I take it off the machine, which is sometimes a problem. The first time it happened to me, I had actually only sewn about 3 inches when I had bobbin thread, and I sewed the rest of the 15 yards without bobbin thread. So now in that case, that machine didn't have a bobbin I could see at any point without taking it out of the bobbin case and everything. And I thought I was fine, but I was not. And so I started doing the bobbin trick where if you put one on the top that's about as filled as the one in the bottom, preferably as filled or less, you'll be able to see when you're running out of thread on the top. And when that happens, you know you're almost out in the bobbin, because here it has to go all the way through the machine, down through the needle and everything. But the bobbin, it's only going this far. So you're going to have probably a couple of feet that you can sew on that bobbin before it runs out. if it runs out, if the two are wound the same. Now, of course, you can't count on that because no two bobbins are ever wound exactly the same. If you're buying pre-wound bobbins, though, it's pretty darn close because that's what you're paying for. So if you're using pre-wound bobbins, you can be pretty sure of how much thread you have left on there when you get to the end. But today I said, nah. I just grabbed two bobbins that are the same color, just for if this one runs out. And I grabbed a green spool that's pretty close. It's not perfect, but I don't need perfect in this. So I'm good. But yeah, for me to have an actual spool on my machine feels a little strange sometimes. I have tons of them, by the way. I have tons of spools of thread, but it's just not something I do all the time. So I'm thinking that I'm going to be painting my son's old room this fall. It is too hot to have the windows open to let the smell out. So this fall, I think I'm going to paint in there and then get it all set up. And I was thinking of doing a studio tour so you guys can see what I've been doing. It won't be perfect, and Lord knows these things never stay the same for long. I'm always trying new things with my studio, and I don't spend nearly enough time putting things away sometimes, and so it's sometimes a bit of a disaster. I have a lot of people who think that because I'm a professional organizer, it means that my house is perfect at all times. And I used to say, yeah, but I'm married and I have a son. And they'd be like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's not just them. It's me too. I'm a real regular person, and all professional organizers are. There are some that are just naturally neat. I am not. I had to learn, and then I still backslide every once in a while. Not badly, but I still do. And that's okay. That's perfectly normal. At the point that your home does not make you happy and comfortable, when you're only thinking about how you don't like how it looks and you don't like how it functions, and you're just not happy, that's the time to do something about it. Now, obviously, if there's safety issues, you have to anyway. And you don't have to have a hoarded home for there to be safety issues. Trip and fall risks are huge. So things like scatter rugs are something that I talk to people about a lot. You know, throw rugs? They are a real hazard. And so a lot of my clients wound up having to pick up their rugs and give them away because they're just... Once you start having a walker, it is very easy to fall. And falls are the #1 reason why people go from being able to live in their home to having to live in an assisted living. So I try very hard with my clients to help them avoid that as much as possible. Alright, we're going to come close here on whether or not I'm going to get this done before we end. I do like to end on time so that I'm respecting your time. I do start the 15 minutes early just so you have a chance to get settled, grab something to drink. Today I almost considered popping a cork on some wine. I settled for the Diet Coke. Grab a snack, grab something to drink, come in, settle down, and enjoy yourself. If that annoys you, I apologize, but it's a way to make sure everybody's in the right mindset for this, because this is not an action show. I am not running around pounding hammers and doing a lot of wild decorating and all of that. It's meant to be calm and relaxing. I hope it is. listening to my silly stories all the time. And so hopefully you feel like you're part of the community here. You are welcome to make comments. If you're here when it's on live, please go ahead and enter the chat. I love chatting with people on there, or talking to people that are putting things in the chat. You can send me photos of what you're working on, and we can talk about it the next time we're together. So I really want this to be interactive with everybody, so that we're all doing this together. This is supposed to be a community activity. It was when it started for the most part, and it's a shame that in many ways we've lost that. Not just in quilting groups like this, I just mean in general in the world. We seem to be spending an awful lot of time mad at each other and not just relaxing and doing things cooperatively. I do occasionally refer to politics here, but I do not allow anyone to troll, be mean to anyone, etc. And when I am talking politics, I do talk in generalities, and I talk about outcomes. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, an independent, or anything else, Green Party, Libertarians, I don't care. My main thing is, how are people treating each other? And so that's the kind of stuff I tend to talk about if politics comes up at all. But for the most part it doesn't. Neither does religion, and neither does all of the other major divisive things, because we're a community and we should be nice to each other. There have been a couple of times I've gone a little crazy, but I think fairly. So please do not send me a ton of political stuff. I do have some people who do that. And I delete it without looking at it, to be honest with you, because I don't want my day ruined by someone else's belief structure or what they think is important. I like to think about what's important to me and my family, my friends, and my community, and go with it from there, and not listening to people being abusive or rude. It goes a long way to keeping my heart happy. So that's more important. Alright, this is the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I am going to take it off my machine. And then when I come back, I'll be doing other colors. But I got all the blue roofs done tonight. There were a couple that had already been done, but this is the last of them. So, camera one zoomed. So we've got just a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pop these apart, and then I will take them downstairs, press them, trim off. When I usually do one of these diagonal types of things, I stitch again a ½ inch away, plus or minus, and then I cut in between. The squares that would be, the half square triangles that would be made would be so tiny that for me, even for me, and I do a lot of tiny work, it's just not worth it. So I'm just going to trim those away and not worry about saving them. This is probably giving some of you heart palpitations who know me, because the fact that Maria ever throws out even the tiniest scrap is kind of a surprise. I do cut my scraps down as far as 1 inch, and then anything less than that goes into either what I call microchip storage, or I'll put it into strings or things like that, and I'll do other things with them. So I do use as much of the fabric as I possibly can. I hate being wasteful. I hate knowing the stuff goes into the landfill when it could be on a quilt to make somebody warm. I do a lot of charity work, and so it's important to not be wasteful and to be able to do good. So it is almost time. I hope you had a good time tonight. I'm just getting these last two. There we go. Hope you had a good time tonight. Please feel free to email me, mail@StashBlasterQuilts.com. and I am looking forward to seeing you in 3 weeks. That will be the first Wednesday of the month. This is a month with 5 Wednesdays. So please come on back. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. I've had a wonderful time here tonight, and I hope I made sense for the most of it, and that you had a good time. All right? Bye-bye, everybody.